Hello and welcome to Soda Tasting, an online show dedicated to soda reviews and appreciation. I'm Patrick O'Keefe. On this episode of Soda Tasting, I'm going to be reviewing IBC Root Beer from Dr Pepper Snapple Group. IBC Root Beer was introduced in 1919, and this soda was requested by elangomattab, and it's my second longest waiting request. It was made around 8 months ago. That's what YouTube says in the comment section. Now, Soda Tasting's been around a little over 9 months, so that gives you an idea of how long ago that request was made. Thank you for supporting the show, and thank you for the request. elangomattab, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I really appreciate it. IBC Root Beer was launched, again, in 1919 by the Griesedieck family, who formed with breweries in the St. Louis area as the Independent Breweries Company, which is what IBC stood for. It was developed as a non-alcoholic alternative during Prohibition. The Kranzberg family purchased the trademark, and increased distribution led to a growth in popularity in the 1920s. In the 30s, they sold it to the National Bottling Company. In the 1970s, the drink was bought by Taylor Beverages, who sold it to the 7-Up Company, who later merged with Dr Pepper and became the Dr Pepper 7-Up Company. Then they were acquired by Cadbury Schweppes before they spun off their North American beverages unit into Dr Pepper Snapple Group. Now let's take a look at the box here. You can see the IBC Root Beer logo. There's not much on the bottles. If you're familiar with IBC, you know that they just have glass here, and the way you can tell them apart it tends to be through the cap at the top. And here we go. Let's take a look at the Nutritional Facts. In 12 ounces, you'll have 160 calories, 65 milligrams of sodium, 44 grams of total carbohydrates, 43 of which are sugars. The ingredients are carbonated water, high fructose corn syrup, caramel color, sodium benzoate, a preservative, natural and artificial flavors, modified food starch, and citric acid. IBCRootBeer.com. So again, you have 160 calories, caffeine-free, sweetened with high fructose corn syrup. Fair amount of foam. It's just kind of a nice root beer smell. Nothing particularly noteworthy about it or unique. So let's give it a taste. IBC has a solid flavor to it. I think what is true, though, is that the flavor is somewhat weak. It's not an overly strong flavor. It dissipates quickly. It goes away very quickly. And you're not left with much. That said, there are worse things to be than going away quickly. It could have a bad aftertaste, which it doesn't. The elements that are there are pretty tasty. I think it's a pretty solid root beer, like I said. I like how it's probably a little more sweet than tangy. It's definitely a sweeter root beer if that's what you're after. And it's not a bitey root beer. It's not a lot. You don't get a lot of licorice. You don't get a lot of, a lot of the anise and a lot of those other flavors that you see in other root beers. You get a little bit of balanced flavor, but it definitely borders on the sweet. So if you like sweet root beers, chances are that you'll like IBC Root Beer for the reason that the flavor is not terribly strong and it doesn't really, it just doesn't really stick around very well. I want to put it at 3.5 out of 5. So a good rating, a good root beer. Are you a fan of IBC Root Beer? If so, let me know in the comments on YouTube or on sodatasting.com. Please subscribe to the show via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, RSS, or email. You can find all those options at sodatasting.com. Thank you for watching, and as always, everything in moderation.